Even though Son Goku is the main character of the Dragon Ball saga, the true centerpiece of the story is the eternal dragon Shenron, or Shenlong, the magical wish-granting dragon that can only be summoned by gathering the Dragon Balls and making a wish. As the story of Dragon Ball evolved, Toriyama chose to focus it more on Goku attaining new abilities and new friends than just the Dragon Balls, but the Dragon Balls were always there and always a very important part of the motivations of both the villains and our heroes. But what is the real secret behind Toriyama's use of a dragon to grant the wishes? Traditionally, you would think he would use like a genie or something like that, and we know that Toriyama is definitely aware of the mythology behind genies because he uses genie-type characters all throughout his manga later on. Why did Toriyama choose to create a wish-granting dragon, and what is the cultural significance of the dragon? On this edition of Dragon Ball In Depth, we go inside the mind of Toriyama and his incredible knowledge of Chinese mythology to explain exactly what the story is behind the Eternal Dragon and why dragons are so important in the story of Dragon Ball.
この放送はご覧のスポンサーの提供でお送りします。
Now, if you're looking for an explanation on the history of the Dragon Balls, that's already been covered in a previous edition of Dragon Ball In Depth, where I talked about the history of the Dragon Balls. I will leave links to that at the end of this video as well as in the comment section down below for you to check out. But please be aware that that video was produced prior to Dragon Ball Super and the Super Dragon Balls being introduced, so it only covers the Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball GT balls, not the Super ones. In the future, I will probably do a video about the Super Dragon Balls, probably when Super is finished. In the meantime, though, with this edition of In Depth, we are dissecting the dragon itself. Almost every time the characters actually summon the dragon by gathering the Dragon Balls, the series makes sure to show you exactly how important and how epic this moment is. The balls glow in orange, there's usually a darkened sky, you see lightning everywhere, and then you see the dragon rise up from a beam of energy coming from the gathered Dragon Balls and appearing in the sky. The dragon is gigantic in stature, very intimidating, and has quite an immeasurable length as far as his body goes. And I'm just talking about the dragon from the Earth Balls. Let's not even get into Porunga, who's completely shredded, or the giant yellow super dragon that's pretty much the biggest thing we've ever seen size-wise in Dragon Ball. Now, the question that I posed at the beginning of the video is, why did Toriyama choose a dragon to be the wish-granting being as opposed to something else? Well, you have to understand the cultural significance of dragons in Eastern philosophy and in Eastern religion. In the Western world, dragons are perceived as being bad creatures, typically associated with something satanic or something demonic, but that's not the case when it comes to Eastern culture, specifically Chinese mythology. Now, one of the things that I've tried to really explain to people in the past, and I will continue to do so in the future as various examples come up, is Toriyama's influence of Chinese mythology and Chinese folklore. Dragon Ball as a series began by Toriyama taking inspiration from Journey to the West, which is Chinese. A lot of the architecture in Dragon Ball is Chinese, a lot of the mythology is Chinese, but a lot of it does have to do with China's actual influence on Japan. Understand that in China, dragons are in fact benevolent creatures associated with Chinese agriculture, and legend has it that many centuries ago in ancient China, the agricultural farmers would pray to dragons to get good rain. In fact, they believed that whenever a thunderstorm happened, it was in fact caused by the awakening of a dragon after a long period of slumber. So when a dragon would awaken, the skies would get dark, you'd hear thunder, lightning would begin, signifying the power of the gods of thunder. Now, if you ask me, that sounds an awful lot like Dragon Ball. But the influences don't stop there, because dragons are often seen as not only benevolent gods, but also very important, powerful creatures that represent the sun and the moon, and are often shown guarding these mystical orbs called thunder pearls that radiates a tremendous amount of light that could even light up an entire home in the evening time. That sounds an awful lot like Dragon Ball. And if you're a fan of Dragon Quest, another project Toriyama worked on, which he did the artwork for, he didn't actually write the story, this is represented by an item called the Stones of Sunlight. But understand that in Japan, everybody's influenced by these stories, and that's why you see it come up over and over again in Eastern fiction. Now, specifically in Journey to the West, Sun Wukong, the character that Goku was based off of, does interact with a couple of different kinds of dragons. First, there are the god dragons, then there are the dragons that take the shape of mortals. Now, this could be inspiration behind Goku being able to transform into a dragon when he does a Dragon Fist technique in Dragon Ball GT and in Dragon Ball Z Movie 13, but that's not exactly explicitly stated, but it could be inspired by that, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is. Now, speaking of dragons in Dragon Ball GT, remember the ending of Dragon Ball GT where Goku sleeps on Shenron and they go away to a mysterious place? This right here could be directly inspired by the Taoist belief that when you ascend to a higher level of Taoism called Taoism Immortality, you can stand on the head of a dragon and the dragon will take you into heaven. And according to the Taoists, if you attain this kind of power, this incredible ability to become one with a dragon, you can actually summon a live dragon from inside of you and emerge out of your own body. Now that really, really sounds like Goku's Dragon Fist technique. You can't deny the influences here. Now, it's pretty obvious that Toriyama's design of the original Shenron is totally based on the traditional dragon from the ancient world that we all know that Toriyama grew up seeing, not just in television and in comic books and movies, but also in various pieces of artwork, pretty much all over the place. Now, I mentioned the genies earlier, and the idea of the dragon granting a wish is absolutely inspired by Persian folklore and Persian stories. In fact, if you really analyze the early portion of the Dragon Ball story, whether you're watching the anime or the manga, it doesn't matter, you'll notice that the entire landscape of the story is heavily Persian. Pilaf and Bulma are both wearing Persian type clothing. You see a Persian Ottoman Empire style castle that Pilaf is from. You see a vast desert, Yamcha of course being a desert bandit resembling a Persian desert bandit. All of this comes from Arabian Nights, which of course would inspire Aladdin, Ali Baba and the 40 Thieves, Sinbad the Sailor. This is one of the most inspirational stories in the history of culture, in the history of the entire world. So the idea of a wish-granting genie that comes out of a lamp shouldn't be that different from a wish-granting dragon that comes out of a ball, except that you don't have to rub the balls. Well, there's a quote. Now, when it comes to Shenlong or Shenron, he is a very impartial deity. He is a dragon god. Granted, he might not be a god on the tiers of the different gods that we would be introduced to later in Dragon Ball, especially in Dragon Ball Super. He is still a dragon god, and thus he can perform feats and miracles that regular mortals cannot do, like bringing people back to life, granting immortality, granting people power, youth, all kinds of different wishes, and yes, even panties. The guy can do everything. But one thing that is important to remember is that, much like a lot of the Greek mythology and the gods in this mythology, the dragon in Dragon Ball is impartial, and that is to say he does not take sides. So it doesn't matter if it's somebody pure-hearted like Goku making the wish, or if it's somebody evil like Zamasu or Frieza making the wish, the dragon will grant the wish. The dragon does not care who's making the wish, what the wish is for, or if the wish could potentially harm even his own future, or even the future of the universe. It doesn't matter. The dragon will grant the wish if you have gathered the balls, and will almost never refuse a wish unless the wish is beyond the capabilities of the creator, or if the wish impacts a person who does not want to be impacted. For example, when they tried to wish Goku to be teleported to Earth after the Frieza saga and Goku refused. Somehow Goku was powerful enough to resist the dragon transporting him. So that to me says that dragon acts on a much more mythical and metaphysical scale than anything else, but a very powerful mortal can still supersede its powers, but it cannot do what the dragon can do, and that is literally shape reality in the way it wants and do things that pretty much are impossible. That's what the dragon does, and it's all based on Chinese mythology and how they view dragons in their culture. I hope you enjoyed this edition of Dragon Ball In Depth. It was a lot of fun to do. I want to thank Derek Padula and the Dragon Ball Culture book series for helping me do some research on this. It was a very useful tool, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have a great day, and I'll catch you down the road.